Right, we are live. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Omar Rauf. I'm one of the founding board members of the Utah Muslim Civic League. I'm your host for this evening. I'm very happy to introduce today's topic. We are talking about the world of technology and e-commerce. We have our guests today, friends and people from our community, very own community of Salt Lake City, Avais Ahmed and Zaki Mohamed, who will be speaking to us today. I would love to kind of introduce this. This is part of our financial literacy series, which is part of Project Rahma. Our goal of this program is really to provide services for a community that they really need during this pandemic. And part of that is providing mentorship and tools and kind of navigate the challenges that we are facing today. So I'm going to introduce our speakers, and then I'll also introduce the rest of our panelists that are joining today. Avais Ahmed is an experienced e-commerce business owner. His primary experience is footwear and fashion online. Although knowing Avais, he has a broad experience in all sorts of e-commerce businesses. He's sold over 1 million pairs of shoes online and is a founder and board member of several other e-commerce companies. Thank you, Avais, for joining us. Zaki Mohamed is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and lifestyle vlogger. His passion is helping people and bringing value to the world in all aspects of personal development, growth, and creating financial independence. I've known Zaki as well for a very long time. He's a very enthusiastic, energetic leader in our community. Please do check out both of them on LinkedIn and on social media and connect with them. I would like to pass off the mic to Abdi to introduce himself and rest of our panelists.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul Qadir. I've been working with the UMCL since March in early pandemic times. I'm a graduate student at the University of Utah, and I'm looking forward to this conversation today. I'm excited to, have this discussion and then talk about, e-commerce, and I'm looking forward. Thank you guys for coming.
Amina, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Amina. I joined this Zoom meeting because I'm really interested in online. I want to start an online business. I'm a second-year student at the U. I'm going to major in economics.
Lisa?
My name is Isa. I'm here. Also, I have started online small business that I've been working on for the past, I think, 2 months now. And I'm a financial advisor at this company. And I kind of just joined this today to kind of get some more insights from you guys as well, where I can, further, move on with the, the online business that I have started, or, am in the process of starting. I have started that. So I kind of want to get some, insights from you guys and, to try to grab some insights from you guys and see what, you guys have the experience of and, what I can do on my end as well too, to kind of push forward.
Thanks for joining us, Isa. Kareem, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Abdi Kareem. I'm a senior at West High School. Next year, I'm looking forward to majoring in business. Also, me and my mom have a small business that we're looking forward to moving online. So yeah, I just want some information on how to run it and stuff.
That's awesome. We've got a diverse group here. I think today's presentation is relevant whether you want to break into a career in e-commerce, digital marketing, or maybe you're trying to start a side business or project. I think we'll get a good broad overview. So Avais, if you'd like to pull up your presentation, and maybe you can just talk a little bit more about your background and experience.
Okay, so you want me to, I'm the host, right?
Yeah, Zaki's going first, sorry.
Okay. Should I share it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Gotcha. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing. Can you add me real quick?
Co-hosts should be good. Maybe you could tell us, Zaki, some of the things that you're working on right now.
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, like I just barely graduated from the University of Utah, and about 6 years ago, I got started into online business. My whole thing was I wanted to be an MBA. As a lot of people kind of have ambitions, wild ambitions. So that's how I kind of first started off, and from there, reality really set in, and I realized, hey, I don't have the genetics to really make it to the NBA. I'm 5'11". I'm not super athletic. It's not going to happen. So slowly but surely, I kind of transitioned into wanting to get started in business high school. But then kind of a lot of things kind of set on. I was just like, hey, first off, there's a bunch of stereotypes when it comes to business, right? I'm Black, I'm young, and I'm Muslim, right? These are all things when it comes to corporate America or going into investment banking. These are all things that kind of aren't in your favor, right? So slowly but surely, I started to look into kind of getting started with online business. And that was the one place where, like, especially with e-commerce, no matter who you are, what you look like, it doesn't matter as long as you're delivering the service and the goods, right? And then after 5 years, kind of slowly transitioned from drop shipping into brand e-commerce. And then now, alhamdulillah, just growing a free brands as time went on.
Were you guys able to get the presentation on? Were you able to share it?
Let me.
His co-host, I think he can share the screen.
Yeah, so I can share my screen now.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we'll get started with my intro, and then you can finish up any other intro, and then you're doing the first part, Zaki, the e-commerce.
Yeah,
so, as Umar said, my name is Avais Ahmed, and I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur for almost 15 years now. And I've done primarily shoes and fashion, but I've also done everything from importing from Southeast Asia. I've sold to companies like Walmart, Radio Shack, Applebee's. So I have experience from production all the way to selling goods online. How I got started was very interesting. I was going to the University of Utah, and me and my brother used to love shoes. We still do, but we used to try to make extra money on the side to buy shoes. So my brother, what he used to do is he used to buy these big card collections of sports cards. And at that time, there wasn't PayPal, there wasn't anything. And he used to take those, and the pictures were bad. So he would put them on the scanner. And so the background would be clear. And we used to buy those collections and sell them as single units. So he started to understand eBay like that, and we would always talk. And we said, hey, what else can we sell? So we loved shoes. So how we started our business was we used to go to Ross and TJ Maxx and buy shoes and sell them on eBay. And at that time, a lot of people weren't doing it. We knew the product really well, and we started doing well. I mean, we would buy shoes for $30 and sell them for $90, and we were doing it 30, 40 times a day. So what we did was we dedicated one room in our house, and we used to put all the shoes that were sold on the bed, and everything we had in the inventory on the ground. And by and by, we built a shed in my parents' backyard, and we used to put the shoes in there. Then we built a second shed, which was out of code. So our neighbors complained and said, like, hey, these guys, they're doing this. And, we just first started borrowing money from our parents and so on and so forth. And over time, we built a business where we were dealers with over 40 different brands. And, now we've kind of diversified as e-commerce is changing quite a bit, which we can talk about. But one story that I wanted to share, kind of how we got our big break, is we used to buy from a gentleman in the Bay Area. And after we used to buy at Ross and TJ Maxx, we thought, okay, there might be a better way to do this, because we used to drive around in our Lexus and put a bunch of shoes in there. And we used to go we were friends with all the managers at Dillard's. So at the end of the year, where there was an 80% sale, we used to go and pick them up. So we thought there must be a better way to do this. So what we did was we Googled, shoe wholesalers, and we started buying from somebody. And after a period of time, we got a call from the owner of that company. and he said that, hey, I want you guys to fly down and work with us. So we thought, hey, why is this guy calling these young kids? And so we used to buy returns from stores that were scratched and dented. And so we went over there, we flew over there, and this gentleman was actually, he was from Nigeria. So originally we found his name and we thought, oh, this guy, is overseas or whatever. But when we looked him up, he was a prominent businessman. So anyway, we went over there and he told us that he wanted to give us a contract for these returns. And we told him that, why would, we don't really have the money at the time. And we said, why, we wouldn't be able to afford it. And he said, well, he said, all my other customers, they're complaining about how much money they're making and they complain too much. You guys have been the only people that have been, happy. And I know everybody's making money on this. So he's like, because of that, I know you're honest. So why don't you guys take the shoes and you pay me when you sell them? I think I was 22 years old at the time. So, definitely we got lucky, and that's kind of how our story started. But today we're going to talk about e-commerce and technology. Zaki here, he's an expert in Shopify and building brands. And my expertise, although I do understand, different parts of e-commerce, my expertise is Amazon. So with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Zaki. Zaki, if you want to share any more, personal stories about how you got started, and then, we can dive into the presentation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the one thing is, it's like kind of similar how Avais got started. One thing was when I was barely getting started, I just remember me spending countless hours in my basement. My parents were like, yo, this kid's playing video games, right? They couldn't grasp the idea of, hey, that there's money being made online, especially early 2016, when it wasn't as prominent as it is today, right? And then slowly but surely, just so much money lost and just kind of going through that uphill battle. Alhamdulillah, finally, I remember it was the funniest thing, because I would get items and we would do arbitrage, right? Which is like essentially drop shipping. I wouldn't have the inventory in hand and I would post it on eBay, right? And then I remember I posted something I didn't have. It was like some Bose Pilot headphones, right? They were like $800 or whatever. I posted it. And then I remember getting the sale within like 24 hours, but the shipping address was Nigeria, right? So I'm going crazy in the house. I'm telling my dad, and my dad's all like, that's quite odd. Who would why are they buying from Nigeria? Within like 24 hours, right when I was about to order the product, I get a chargeback notice that, hey, somebody's account was used fraudulently, right? And then from there, it was like, hey, eBay, PayPal looked into it. They were like, hey, you're underage, you're not 18 yet. There was just all these uphill battle things that kind of just set you back all the time, right? And then eventually, it kind of transitioned from going to AliExpress. AliExpress is very prominent now in Alibaba, right? Going to websites of that nature, finding products, and really just understanding, hey, don't recreate the wheel. That's one thing that I truly kind of just established was like, I don't have to be the best or the first, but just kind of be an innovator, right? And just kind of make something a little bit better and just kind of go from there. So from there, just launching my first few stores, them failing utterly, right? And then going into influencer marketing. That's one thing that I was kind of early on in, going to Instagram influencers, these people that didn't understand the value of their audiences, right? And paying a female or a boy that had 50, 100,000 followers, $20 for a shout out. They're like 18, 19 years old. And they're just thinking, hey, $20 is my next meal. Like, you know what I mean? They're not really thinking the volume or what could happen, et cetera. And me being on the other side, getting 100 orders that day, right? And then now figuring out how I'm going to get that from China and doing all the logistics. And then that just kind of evolved into what it is today, just kind of building these assets, building email lists, and just kind of doing it this at scale. But as we know today, just think about it. Like, think about how many people have TikToks today. I bet you guys personally know somebody that has over 10,000 followers on TikTok, just because how volatile the platform is, right? And just kind of creators just becoming smarter as time went on. It's not mainstream yet, but it's just kind of getting a little more competitive as a little bit goes on, but we're still early in a hole. Okay, you want me to get started with the presentation?
Yeah, let's keep going on the presentation.
Perfect. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about e-commerce and tech, really just how early the industry as a whole is and what it is to become and how to really get your foot in today, right? Because right now, just think about it as a whole. I bet everybody here can agree they've probably ordered something on Amazon within the last month, within the last week, within, whatever, especially as the pandemic has kind of ravaged retail stores. We've been really kind of aggressive in going directly online for our safety, for the safety of others, etc. Right? So the big question here is a lot of people kind of stumble across e-commerce and they're like, hey, what is e-commerce, right? And it's a simple concept, just ordering something online, something that you would have bought in store, right? Just ordering it online and just kind of having that online dealing, putting in your credit card info and going about it that way and having it delivered to you, right? Every single person here can agree that they've done that in one way, form, or fashion, from big box brands, Nike, right, Foot Locker, wherever it may be, just going on, just typing in the website and going about that way, right? So one of the biggest things that kind of blows my mind every single time when I see the stats is how early the actual industry in and of itself is, right? So for example, I got started maybe early 2016. And at that time, I felt like I was kind of late, right? Just because I was like, hey, there's just so much going on. But then as time progressed, I realized it's really in its infancy, essentially, right? So just to give you guys some numbers, in 2017, total sales across the globe when it came to e-commerce was about $2.3 trillion, right? And one of the biggest things I think people don't grasp the idea of how much $2.3 trillion is, right? Just to give you a quick analogy, if you were to put trillion, billions, and millions into seconds, right? I think that a million seconds is about 11 hours approximately, and a billion seconds is 33 days, right? So just to kind of quantify on how much larger things are getting at scale. And then if you want to go into trillions, that's just 1,000 billions, right? So the growth has been exponential, nothing less of that. And as we got into 2020, it actually doubled almost and has been growing at an extreme rate. One of the biggest things that was kind of an accelerator that we all can agree was the pandemic, right? This was something that was unforeseen and nobody really saw this coming, especially when it came to the growth of e-commerce, right? If you were buying things online before, you started buying more things online, especially as mandates and lockdowns started being put onto people and you had to be home and things started to happen. One of the biggest things is that during the pandemic, growth that wasn't supposed to be seen till about 2022 actually took place during 2020. And that'll continue to happen as scale starts to go. So about 2020, we did about $4.2 trillion. So in 3 years, almost 100%. And then by 2023, it's approximated. Who knows if something could happen and accelerate that growth? It's only going up $6.5 trillion in overall sales, right? So in the last 6 years, about 175% market growth. There's really no industry today at scale that's doing such growth, which is actually one of the biggest things when it comes to e-commerce and technology. It'll just only grow, and eventually there's not going to be brick and mortar. It's going to be majority online versus the other, right? So the big question is, who are the big players? Who are the people that we're buying from? Who are the people that kind of control this market? And just kind of give you guys some insight. Everybody knows about Amazon. Jeff Bezos is the richest guy out there, right? Until recently, Elon Musk kind of took that. But Jeff Bezos, we all know about Jeff Bezos. We know about how Amazon was the first $1 trillion company. And we know what they do. We know how they get everything to our doors in 2 days, etc. They've kind of built that motto of, hey, we're going to be the best in delivery. We're going to be the best in price. We're going to be XYZ, right? And then there's a few that people don't know as prominently as Amazon and Shopify, right? And we'll go over exactly what Shopify is, how does it work, what's the difference between Amazon and it. And then there's Walmart, right? Walmart's actually going into the marketplace kind of industry, right? They just recently partnered up with Shopify. One thing is that anybody that is in the United States and everybody here has either purchased something online from Amazon and has purchased something in person from Walmart, right? So that's just to kind of give you some grasp on how big it is. And then some kind of other companies that people don't understand at scale, how big they really are. Wish, I bet everybody has seen their ads or seen them on a Lakers jersey, right? and wondered exactly what they do, how they do it. Well, they're probably one of the biggest e-commerce platforms, e-commerce sellers, selling a few $1 billion every single year through their platform, just kind of prioritizing price and getting it from A to B is as cheap as possible, right? And then not as prominent, but everybody knows Jack Ma is Alibaba, right? One of the largest wholesalers when it comes to ordering things from wholesale from China. And then AliExpress is becoming more prominent as time has gone on. Just kind of coming down to, hey, it was started off as a platform as people like myself, dropshippers or people in e-commerce, to order samples, to order product in bulk extremely cheap and upsell those and mark them up as time went on. But as consumers got smarter, they started to understand, hey, these products are coming from China. It's not too hard to get it from China, et cetera, right? So these are kind of the big players when it comes to overall e-commerce, like cap space. Like they kind of manage, and they're a majority of the people that are in the industry. And you have to kind of go through them if you're going to get something done when it comes to e-commerce selling from a direct-to-consumer aspect, right? So what does that mean for me and you, right? That's the biggest question when people hear all those numbers. Hey, it's a $6.5 trillion market cap, right? It's gonna grow exponentially. Like, what does that mean for me? Am I just gonna always stay a consumer? Am I just gonna keep ordering? Are they gonna be eventually drones that are coming down? Well, no. It's whoever's proactive, right? It's not that hard to get involved. And that's the biggest thing right now. Let me just give you guys some numbers. There's about 2.5 million sellers on Amazon, right? And I think I saw a stat not too long ago. About 25,000 of those sellers made $1 million last year. About 200,000 sellers made over $100,000 last year, just to kind of give you some insight. And these are people just like ourselves, just people that have regular lives, like, you know what I mean? They're working, that just wanted to start a side business, that wanted to launch a product or saw some type of opportunity in their neighborhood or whatever it may be, and went on and posted on Amazon and kind of go about that, right? And then there's Shopify. There's about 820,000 sellers on Shopify. For everybody that follows kind of the stock market or whatever, you guys probably saw early on and during the pandemic, during like March-ish, just the exponential growth. Everybody's talking about Shopify. Everybody's talking about Shopify. If you put in $10, it would have been $100, whatever, right? Everybody's talking about that growth. And that was really due to people having their retail businesses shut down due to the mandates and all the lockdowns, and state kind of, the governors just kind of proactively being like, hey, we're going to have to shut you down. You can't have people inside of your store, or putting strict rules in place, and thus forcing them to go online and sell their products there, right? And 820,000 sellers on Shopify, growing exponentially, right? And then recently announced Walmart Marketplace, which is probably the youngest of the group, right? Walmart is proactively trying to compete with Amazon. So right now they just partnered up with Shopify in and of itself and created a marketplace where, just like Amazon, somebody can go on there and start selling their products, right? There's about 33,000 sellers on Walmart Marketplace since January. The number could have gone up. So it's definitely still young, and it's not as many as 2.5, right? And then Alibaba, when it comes to the wholesale part of the business, there's about 150,000 sellers on Alibaba, and majority of them are people that do wholesale, right? Sell products in bulk to people that want to sell it on Amazon, sell on Shopify, sell on Walmart Marketplace, right? So that's just to kind of give you an idea. There's about less than 4 million people that are selling on these platforms. And if you do that number across the whole United States, not even talking just the United States itself, that's less than X percent, right? It's less than a percentage of itself if you do the numbers, right? Which means that there's a lot of room to grow. There's an exponential amount of room to grow, which means it's still in its infancy. All you need to do is get in there and get your piece of this massive pie, right? So kind of the different e-commerce models. People always talk about, hey, what are the different models when it comes to e-commerce? What are the different business models? We can go on a whole tangent talking about every single business model and how it works and how you can do it, etc. So first off, there's Amazon FBA, and Avais is an expert when it comes to Amazon. He's going to go in depth about it, which is just essentially fulfilled by Amazon, where you see these products that have Prime marked next to them, right? And kind of prioritizes people that want to buy on Amazon, etc. You send your product into Amazon in bulk, and they fulfill for you. And essentially, you kind of have to just go through and jump through their hoops, and you sell through there. And then there's branded e-commerce, right? Branded e-commerce, a prime example of somebody that does branded e-commerce is Kylie Cosmetics. we probably, anybody that's kind of in the space or just knows, has social media, probably heard of, hey, the youngest billionaire, right? And what she did and how she did it. Well, essentially that's kind of brand e-commerce, somebody that has a branded company, essentially a branded store, and creates their own products and fulfills behind their brand, right? And then there's drop shipping. Drop shipping is essentially being the middleman, right? Let's say somebody like myself, when I started, doesn't have the capital to get started. I don't have the capital to go out there and order 1,000 units, right? Or I don't have the infrastructure just even to handle 1,000 units. I don't have the capital or anything in that nature. What I would do is I would first solve my first problem, which is getting sales, right? A lot of people kind of think of problems that they don't have yet, and they start to think about, hey, I got to do X, Y, Z, all of these things. When in reality, if you don't have a proven method, right, and you've already haven't sold X amount of units, right, you're just putting yourself at risk, right? Let's say you're buying 1,000 units, $1,000 hypothetically, you're sitting on $1,000. If you're unable to move that, that's 1,000 pieces of garbage, right? You're not going to use them all. It's not, you know what I mean? So that's where drop shipping is very effective in and of itself, just because you can prove the product first. And then once it's proven and you have quantity and you have volume, then you go out there and with the funds from there, go about that. So essentially how drop shipping works is you would communicate with a Chinese supplier or anybody around the globe, just depending on how low your markdown is. And essentially they would charge you $1, you'll sell it for $2, right? And you take the $1 profit, you pay them, and you get the difference, right? Just for being the middleman and kind of facilitating that, right? When it comes to actual numbers, you just kind of mark it up, right? You have to start breaking down your numbers. You have to start thinking about all those things and kind of go about that. We'll kind of go about that in depth later in the presentation. And then there's wholesale, right? Let's say wholesale is your business. You'd be on Alibaba, which a lot of people do around the globe, especially in China and kind of overseas, just selling pallets and pallets of things, right? Let's say that you have 1,000 units of XYZ and you were able to get it for cheaper. You could go to somebody like myself and be like, hey, Zaki, I have 1,000 units and I'll sell you for $1,000. I know you could sell it for 2,000 and kind of create that interest, right? And go about that. So those are kind of the different business models. As we go into each specific one, there are a few different ones that you guys could just jot down if it interests you. For example, print on demand, right? There's companies like Printful that work directly with Shopify, where essentially, let's say you have a clothing brand of some sort, right? Or anything in that nature where you want to start your own brand, but you don't want to go out there and go to your local print shop and spend a few $100 on inventory, right? Well, essentially you can go out there and they'll fulfill based on how much your quantity is, right? So let's say you have your site up and everything and somebody orders from you. Well, essentially they'll go out there and print one t-shirt they'll print based on your orders, right? And that's what print on demand is. So you're never sitting on quantity and you're never sitting on inventory that you're forced to move, right? One of the biggest mistakes I made early on was that I think I was like 17, 18, and I tried to start my own clothing brand, which is the first thing that everybody kind of gets into when they want to start with e-commerce. And I remember I told my dad, I was like, yo, this is the big break, right? And I was like, hey, I have $100, I need $100, right? We're going to order 20, 30 t-shirts. I'm going to sell them. It's going to happen. And I just remember it was the dumbest idea. Just kind of in hindsight, hindsight's 2020, but essentially I just remember sitting on 20 t-shirts, right? My little brother got 3, I got 4, right? And I was just sitting on inventory and it was wasted money, right? Whereas if I had known about, right? And this is where ignorance is bliss, where essentially you got to go out there and do research. If I had known about print on demand, I would have essentially just gone out there, put up the store, and I would have never invested. I would have just gone on Canva. I would have gone on these websites and designed my t-shirt. And I could have tested out 20, 30, 40, 50 different designs. Whereas when I ordered the inventory, I was stuck with this one design, not knowing if a soul even wanted it, except for myself, right? So that's just to kind of give you some hindsight or some insight just to kind of understand, hey, when it comes to e-commerce and these different business models, there's different stages for each person, right? Especially just kind of where you're at and kind of your capital intake and how much risk that you want to take and how much risk you're willing to take, right? So one of the biggest things is a lot of people ask, why should I sell on Shopify? There's a bunch of different platforms. There's Magento, there's BigCommerce, right? People sell on, and these are kind of hosting platforms people sell on, but I think the proof is in the pudding, right? Shopify is one of the fastest growing, and in my opinion, it's the simplest, right? I wasn't a coder. I didn't know how to do web development. I could trust me. Avais know me very well. I wasn't the brightest kid in the room, right? But it was kind of some drag and drop type of things, and I was able to kind of make that happen in that sense when it came to creating a site and going about that, which didn't require any technical kind of skill base, right? And that's what kind of drew me to Shopify and just their UI UX, right? When it came to overall user experience, when it came to the mobile app, when it came to all of those things, it was the simplest and the most user friendly, which has led them to becoming the behemoth that they are today, right? So just to kind of give you guys some insight, industry standard, a majority of the large companies, just like a company like Tesla, they actually use as their hosting, they use Shopify, right? And a company like Gymshark, I don't know if you guys heard, but Gymshark's a fitness brand that just recently sold for, or was valued at $1 billion out of the UK, right? And they've been on Shopify since day one. And Shopify has kind of accommodated them and let them grow. Tesla kind of using this model as Tesla's one of the only car companies that kind of use this model of, hey, super sleek, super clean. But as we all know, Tesla's just kind of becoming what it is today. And we all see kind of the end product, but they've always been industry kind of leaders in that sense, right? So that was one of the biggest things when it came to simplicity. That's what sold me, and just kind of the easiest A to B to C, and how can I get launched, right? So what does Shopify do and how does it work? One of the biggest reasons a lot of people don't know about Shopify is just because of the fact that it's not a marketplace. It's not a platform. You don't go to Shopify Marketplace and order, or you don't type in shopify.com and then type in the product that you're looking for, right? It's specifically for merchants, right? We're looking at how many merchants. It's for business owners, people that want to go out there and start their own business, right? So let's say I want to start Zach's t-shirt brand, right? I would go out there, purchase the domain, set up my website, and go about using Shopify as a platform. When somebody comes to my website, they would now eventually, but previously they wouldn't know it was hosted on Shopify. There was literally barely a watermark maybe at the bottom on the free plan, and kind of go about that way, right? But as it's not as prominent, but for in the sense of merchants, and it's not a marketplace, but it's like in the sense of a hosting, right? It hosts your site and takes care of you in the sense of inventory management and fulfilling orders and kind of just holding all of that information, right? So just like it says here, Shopify is a commerce platform that allows anyone to set up an online store and sell their products. Unlike Amazon, it isn't a marketplace, but a hosting platform for your own company, right? So that's kind of the difference between Amazon and Shopify users, right? And the one thing is that Amazon's a marketplace. They drive traffic for you, right? They have, I think, I don't know, it's an absurd amount of kind of daily shoppers every single day. And all of those shoppers are driven to you, and they have a chance to see your product if you abide by their rules, right? Whereas for Shopify, it's you're on your own, right? There's no marketplace. You set up a website, you're going to kind of have to figure it out, but you're kind of given that, in a sense, independence, and you have more kind of leverage, but definitely in the sense of there's not as many resources, right? And that's a big thing there. So simply just getting started on Shopify, come up with an idea. I think a lot of people kind of think about, just like I said, think about problems that they don't have yet, right? And they start thinking about, hey, how am I going to get my website set up? Who's going to develop the website? They start thinking about web development, and they start thinking about all these problems that only exist in our head and that are like kind of limiting beliefs, right? Well, just come up with an idea and choose a business model that works for you based on the business models we kind of went through, right? And once you do that, just literally just go out there, set up a website, simple website, and start driving traffic. Start thinking about traffic methods on the platforms that you use every single day. I bet every single person that's scrolled through Instagram today, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever, has seen an ad from a store, right? An e-commerce platform, or an e-commerce merchant, right? Or a company in of itself. And some of us even bought something today, potentially, right? So just start thinking about being on the other side of the screen and not being the one that clicks, but being the one that pays for the click, right? So one of the biggest questions is, how do I know what products to sell, right? And this is where I kind of learned this the hard way, is shiny object syndrome, right? And it's something I suffered from a lot, right? Where essentially every single time I saw the next big thing, I would jump on it, which led me to which led me to, for a long time, not being able to go over the hill with the thing that I was doing, right? So for example, let's say I was selling a specific product in fitness, right? I would start to grow it. I'd feel like I'm going over the hill. And then I would see an ad for makeup and I'd be like, nope, drop this. Let me start over, right? Just because I had this sense of shiny object syndrome where I was like, hey, I have to be on the newest trend, which led me to always starting over. And that's one thing that you need to kind of overcome. And I feel like everybody can test this. They've kind of suffered from this in one way, form, or fashion. You have to understand your bandwidth, right? You have to understand how many things that you can handle and how much you can handle. And that focus is the prime kind of, in a sense, the prime force that moves forward, right? That moves you forward. If you can lock in and focus on whatever you're going to do, then go about that. So when it comes to knowing what products to sell what the customers want, not what you want, right? And it took me a while to kind of grasp this idea because when I first got started, I was like, hey, I love basketball. I'm going to sell basketball things. Nope, it didn't work, right? I would go out there and try to sell kind of things that were related to my interests, when in reality, the consumers didn't care what I liked or care what I thought, right? You guys remember in 2017, the Fidget Spinners, right? If you would have been 2 years prior, everybody would have said you were nuts. There's no way that's going to work. It's no way it's going to happen, right? But they sold about 19 million units in 2017 alone. You guys remember the trend. Every single kid, I bet in your household or whoever you knew, had a fidget spinner on hand, and it became what it became. And that's one of the first early products that I got started with and kind of got in on. And then from there, home decor market in 2018 did about $250 billion, right? And these are products people don't kind of attribute to e-commerce sales, right? They think that they have to start up a t-shirt brand. They have to start and be the next innovative person. They have to do X, Y, Z, when in reality, it's products that we see every single day that are selling at scale. That's what people are making money off of, right? And these are how businesses are created. Not selling wants, but selling needs is the actual business that we're in when it comes to e-commerce. And that's what like platforms like Shopify and platforms, especially like Amazon, have specialized in, right? Where they don't want to sell you on what you want. They're selling you on what you need and kind of delivering that in a packaged form, right? So anybody that wants to get rid of the notion of that you're the kind of the consumer, right? You're not, right? You have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and think about it that way and kind of go about that, right? So one of the biggest things that I said earlier was don't recreate the wheel. When it comes to especially e-commerce, I'm probably one of the least innovative people that you'll meet, just because I kind of go out there, look at what the competition is doing, and just slightly, literally just make it a little better, right? Like one of the biggest things that I truly believe in is if there's no competition, there's no money to be made, right? If you're the first person to be in that market, then it's going to be tough. There's a lot of risk associated, right? And I go about it a different way. I think about, hey, if there's a lot of people making money in here, how can I get my little piece of the pie, right? And that's exactly what I do. Just kind of going out there, identifying brands. If you see an ad that's coming down your Instagram feed, go out there, click on the ad, engage with it, so you can start being hit with more ads, right? You'll start being hit with story ads. And once that starts to happen, you can start to understand what they're doing psychologically, right? How are they trying to engage you from go out there, swipe up, click on the link, add to cart, go all the way through the purchase cycle, right? So you can fire on all points of their pixel, which we'll go over, and they can start to track you. And from there, you start getting hit with their ads. So now, slowly but surely, you start understanding what kind of jargon they're using, what kind of wording they're using, right? You start to understand how they're reeling in kind of customers, right? And that's kind of been the best teacher. Just instead of going out there and typing into YouTube how to write copy for an ad or how to script an ad video or who's, you know what I mean? It's just literally just look at what the competition is doing at scale. Look at how many views the video has, right? Just keep this in mind. Nobody's going to pay for views unless they're making money, right? If you see a video on Instagram that has 1 million views and it came up as an ad, just know that they're making they're spending money because they're making money, right? And kind of go out there and funnel hack your way all the way through. Sometimes like just even buy the product just to kind of see what their packaging looks like, what their post email sequence, everybody has gotten emails, especially this past Black Friday. I bet every single person was bombarded with emails and text messages, right? Those are all things you want to start to analyze and understand what the competition is doing. And then from there, kind of understand that, how do I make this a little bit better? How do I innovate? How do I add my own twist? And then you know that you have something there, right? So when it comes to selling your product, you want to understand your demographic. Are the people that you're selling, like you don't want to sell makeup, or Kylie Cosmetics, she's not going to target males when she comes down to her in a sense, her imaging, or when it comes down to how she's using her models. Even she's not going to use male models, right? Because it's a cosmetics company specifically designed for women, right? So essentially that's one of the biggest things when it comes to kind of e-commerce as a whole, is you want to make sure that there's no disconnect between the product and the consumer. At any moment or point, you don't want them to feel like, hey, this isn't for me, or this wouldn't work for me, or I couldn't see myself using that, right? And it goes down to all the way down to the littlest things, where as time went on, especially as marketers and people that are using these advertising platforms, there's nothing said by accident, right? I want you guys to understand that there's no word that's said by accident. There's no kind of word that's written by accident. Everything is there for a specific reason. And it comes down to understanding your demographic and understanding exactly who your customer is and giving them the best experience all the way through, right? And this is a big thing for me, and I kind of grasped this early on, was if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound, right? And philosophers ask themselves all the time that, hey, if somebody has to hear it for there to be sound, and they just go back and forth, right? And this is exactly how I look at people that have amazing products, but nobody sees it. What's the point of you could have the best product in the world, you could have the most innovative, the coolest product in the world, but nobody will ever see it. And that's where the downfall happens. That's where the dilemma is, right? So just kind of think back, just think from a number standpoint. How many brands are out there that are probably better than every single brand that you see at PacSun, that every single brand that we see on shelves, right? There probably is a lot, but they just didn't get the eyeballs that were needed. And that comes down to anything, right? How many actors are out there? How many musicians, whatever it may be, are out there that are better than everybody else, but they never got the kind of the attention or the views or the notoriety, whatever it may be. And that's the biggest thing. It comes down to traffic. You can have the best product in the world, but if you're not using the platform in and of itself to drive traffic, to drive enough eyeballs, then it's just wasted time and wasted money, right? So some of the biggest platforms, right, are Facebook, Instagram, just both owned by Facebook. These are kind of the main platforms that a majority of kind of marketers use when it comes down to owning an e-commerce store, right? Facebook ads, if you go on Facebook right now, you scroll for 5 minutes, I guarantee you'll see an ad. Same thing with Instagram. You'll see an ad as well, right? And Google. If you go into Google right now and type in a specific product, they're tracking you across all these platforms, right? And the way that they do this is essentially, one thing is, and people kind of get freaked out when they hear this, is just understand that Facebook knows more about us than we know about ourselves, right? And when it comes down to e-commerce, it's a reality, right? That whenever you're seeing a product, you're not seeing it by accident, right? And people can target, especially when it comes to a marketer, and you're going inside these platforms, you're going inside Facebook ads or going inside the business manager, whatever it may be, you're able to target down to, hey, I want to target somebody that lives inside of this mile radius, that has interest in XYZ, that makes X amount of money, that lives in a house of this median range, right? And those are very specific demographics, and they're able to target down to that T. So that's one thing when it comes down to how powerful these platforms are, that let's say I wanted to sell a basketball t-shirt, I'm able to go out there and target people that have interest in LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and so forth and so on, and target a specific age group, a specific gender, and go out there and show them a specific ad, right? And that's what it comes down to. When you think about selling a product online or selling anything in any form or fashion, you want to understand that, hey, where is the beginning point, right? And the sense of what kind of content, right, would they kind of correlate, what kind of content correlates with the customer, and then also what kind of content would get them engaged, right? As kind of time has gone on, consumers have built like they have ad fatigue, right? I bet you scroll and you actually don't see an ad when in reality you just saw four, right? Where it doesn't even make you flinch. And that's just because we've been bombarded with so many ads that we have ad fatigue, right? We don't see them. It's just we have ad blockers, right? So when it comes to creating these ads and when it comes to kind of going out there and creating content for the consumer, you have to really be out there. You have to be better than the best, right? So next time you're scrolling and you see an ad that you actually watch all the way to a minute, just know that was an amazing ad, because 90% of marketers are unable to do that, right? And that's one thing that you want to understand, is that when you're selling a product, you don't want it to feel like they're being sold, right? And that's one thing that when it comes to content marketing, Facebook and Instagram are really good platforms to do. And then when it comes to directly just kind of Google Ads, in the sense of the largest search platform, we all can agree that we use Google today, right? The last hour, whatever it may be. And this is kind of a whole different sense of marketing where people are out there searching for the product, right? Whereas Facebook and Instagram, it's surprise marketing. I'm scrolling, I want to see my friends, right? I want to see what everybody's up to. I want to go in the DM, I want to do, you know what I mean? And I'm not really in the shopping mood. I'm not really in kind of that mindset, and I'm not set up that way right now currently. So when I see these ads, they have to attack me in a very different manner, right? And they have to engage me. They have to surprise me. They have to do X, Y, Z to get my attention. Whereas Google, I'm going out there and I'm the consumer looking for the product. I'm going to go into Google and type in best vacuum cleaners, right? I'm definitely in the market to go probably buy a vacuum. There's no reason for me to be looking that up unless potentially I'm in the market to buy a vacuum cleaner, right? And so forth and so on. And then you're given a multitude of options. And that's how Google Ads work, that in the sense of just kind of paying for a specific keyword and bidding, et cetera. There's very much in depth, but it's a different market, right? It's a different kind of mind frame when it comes to the consumer, where somebody is going out there and definitely looking for the product, whereas surprise marketing on the other side, right? And when you understand that, you have to put your feet inside of the shoes of the consumer and understand that, hey, this person is wanting to laugh on TikTok or wanting to laugh on Instagram or seeing their friends, that I have to be sneaky. I can't be aggressive. I can't tell them, I can't just come on a video and be like, buy my stuff. It's not going to work, right? Whereas for Google Ads, somebody can click and you can send them directly to checkout. They don't have to really kind of go through the whole website cycle, right? So that's one of the things I just kind of covered, was the buyer journey, right? This is one thing that I think a lot of marketers are just kind of people don't understand, or it's like kind of subconsciously haven't noticed, right? There's a stat that it says that essentially it takes about 7 interactions with a consumer before they actually purchase, right? So when somebody sees your ad once, the probability that they'll purchase is unlikely. Twice, 3 times, 4 times, so forth and so on. But it actually takes 7 times on average. So within that 7 interactions before you actually get the purchase, you have to be very strategic, right? First off, who is this person? Are they interested in my product? Are they in the market for it, or XYZ? We start off with awareness. Let's make them aware that we exist, right? And that could be simply paying somebody to record a video for you and going out there and being like, hey, recently there's a large company that I absolutely love their ads. It's called Lumen, if anybody has heard of them. And essentially they are making skincare products for essentially males and females alike. But essentially one of the things that they do extremely well is UGC, which is user generated content, right? And they go out there and essentially, let's say somebody loves my product. I'll tell them, hey, would you mind recording a 15, 20-second video? And they'll record a video. I absolutely love the product. I had dark circles under my eyes, etc. And I'll use that to go make people aware, right? I'll go out there and put that on Facebook and Instagram and start driving traffic to the specific demographic. And once that happens, people are aware. Maybe they're not in the buying mood. They're like, oh, okay, cool, that exists, right? And then from there, we start taking them through the buyer journey, essentially, right? Start hitting them with specific offers, right? And from there, it's like, hey, I just made them aware we exist. And then Lumen does this extremely well by going from making people aware, right? And going directly to, hey, you have nothing to lose. I'm going to give you four like days of it for free, right? 4 days of our product for free. So from there, it's like, I started to consider it. I started to wonder, hey, I have nothing to lose. I got to pay for shipping, right? now the consumer starts to think it's a win-win situation. Once you start putting the consumer in a not lose situation, forget a win-win. It comes down to, you can't think about it as a win-win. And this is kind of where I've realized it's the opposite. You just got to make sure the customer cannot lose, right? If the customer at any moment is feeling like, hey, there is no way I lose, I get a product, I have it for free, I just got to pay for shipping, they're more inclined to purchase, right? And then from there, if everything's streamlined, the customer makes their decision and you can go about it that way, right? And along the way, you're kind of just throwing in a lot more user-generated content. You're showing the results of using said product after the fact, right? And going about that way, right? So that's kind of the buyer journey and how it happens, going from awareness to consideration to the decision. And then I'll pass it over to Avais.
Awesome. I mean, a lot of material there. And I mean, I think one of the good things is that when I was, starting this, our Muslim community here was much smaller. It was much harder to find mentors, and a lot of people hadn't been doing this kind of thing. So, I mean, lucky for anybody who's watching, or the panelists, or anybody else on the call, you have mentors, and Zaki and I, and also Umar is experienced, and definitely we can also connect you to other resources that we have that we may not be experts in, but that can point you in the right direction. So my expertise is Amazon. So Amazon and marketplaces. So we started out on eBay. I mean, we've probably done 400,000 or 500,000 transactions on eBay, but over 1 million on Amazon. We started out in Amazon in 2011 and have been through. It used to be primarily you could only fulfill via seller, so you would have to ship it yourself. Now, as Zaki alluded to, there's a thing called Amazon FBA, and Amazon FBA you can ship to Amazon. But Amazon is the largest largest platform on the internet right now for e-commerce. In 2019, over $280 billion in sales, and that has increased. This year, in May, it was 60% more than last year. So it's increased by 60% this year in many of the months. So what's happening is because of COVID, as he said, a lot of people are staying home and figuring out ways to shop online. So the thing is, on Amazon sells their stuff, but over 140,000 small, medium-sized businesses sell on there, right? So that accounts for 40% of the revenue. So almost half of whatever Amazon is sold is from people like you and me. Can you guys see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Amazon is dominating. Why are they dominating? Why can't you just go make your own website to compete with Amazon? Why is it important to have Amazon part of your strategy? Well, Amazon has a lot of customers that go there and look for whatever they're buying. So Amazon's also become a search engine. So if people are going for car covers or looking for cool shoes or Nike shoes, they will go on and search on Amazon. So additionally, people are already buying something on Amazon, right? So Amazon's either acquired or it's gotten the largest catalog on the internet. So what happens is people are already going to look for a pair of shoes, then they'll add shoelaces. Then they'll say, well, I don't have enough protein bars. So what's happening is more and more people are going to Amazon. So Amazon has one of the highest lifetime values on the internet. So what is a lifetime value? So lifetime value of a customer is how many times or how much money that's projected that a customer can spend. So within Amazon, you're gonna buy, your toothpaste, your iPad, your iPod, your protein bars, right? Versus if I just had my own shoe site, somebody's only gonna buy shoes from me twice a year. So maybe they'll spend $100, $200 a year, and many people don't even buy shoes from the same place every year. So for example, on a small shoe website, my lifetime value might be $200, $300, right? Amazon, the average lifetime value of a customer around $2,283 according to this study that I posted. So a customer will spend about $2,200 in their lifetime on Amazon. So what happens? Because Amazon knows that so many people, that person's going to spend so much money, they can afford to spend the most amount of ad dollars to attract them to you, right? So that's why you should sell on Amazon, because once you post the products there, already many people are going to come on and look for it. There's ways to enhance by advertising, by reviews, by other methods, but already just being on Amazon is going to get you some traffic. Another reason why people use Amazon, because they're already using Amazon Music, they're already having Alexa, they're already having these different things. So it just makes it easier. And they also have Prime. So Prime means that they can get products in 2 to 3 days for $3.99. So if you're just selling on your own website, you can't ship to people for $3.99 overnight. You can't afford it. So that's why it's good for you to use that marketplace to provide others with that convenience, and that will increase your traffic, and it'll also increase your conversion rate. So there's 3 different types of Amazon business models. Okay, one is reselling. So reselling is simply you're buying someone else's product with someone else's brand and you're reselling it for more. So you're just buying something low, selling it high. Now, the second is private label. Private label is if you are taking a product, whether you're manufacturing it overseas from scratch, or you're buying something that doesn't have a brand, you're putting your own brand on it, changing it a little bit, making it better. That's private label. So you're creating your own brand. The third is to wholesale to Amazon. So I want to go into these 3 models a little bit and talk about how to get involved with them. The easiest one of those 3 is reselling, right? Because you don't have to come up with your own brand. You don't have to import from China. It's just right here. Okay. So the way that you can start a simple reselling business is go to get a tool, like an Amazon research tool. An easy one is Jungle Scout, just like the Jungle Scout, or another one is AMZ tools. And you can get those, and I think they even have some that have free amount of searches. So from that, you can put anything that you could buy or source, and you can see how much it sells. So you can see, hey, look, this sells about this many a month, right? So then you can say, okay, if it sells that many a month, you will get a portion of that. That doesn't mean that if it sells 100,000 a month, you're gonna, get that. Amazon shares the buy box with everybody that's in there. So you can, for a SKU that's selling a lot, you can kind of safely assume that you might get 5-6% of whatever those tools are saying. Now, are you going to make money if you sell it? So you can type in Amazon FBA seller calculator. So Amazon FBA seller calculator. That what happens is that will pull up a calculator for you. You then put the item on Amazon that you also have and you want to resell, and you put the cost of what you get it. So they'll tell you how much Amazon's commission is going to charge, how much it's going to charge, how much they're going to charge for fulfilling, and so on. So you'll be able to see if that's how you can make money. The challenge with the hard thing about reselling is sometimes sometimes some of the brands may object to you selling it. Sometimes it can be very competitive, and then you don't have any value in the sense of selling your business, right? And I don't mean any, but it's hard to sell your business because you don't have anything unique, you don't have anything proprietary. So when you go on and you see, hey, this guy sold his business for 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. If you have a reseller business, it's a good way to make money, good way to start out making some money, but it's hard to sell. And if you sell it, you won't be able to get the amount of valuation that you can get for creating your own brand. Okay, that takes me to private label. So private label is you create your own product, right? So the same thing uh, with reselling is you can use tools like Jungle Scout, and you can look at different niches that you might be interested in. One thing which I'll go into later is that find something that you like or that you're passionate about, right? That will allow you to create a better product. So if you like coffee, start there. If you like, board games, look there, because that will allow you to create a better product. So when you're creating a private label product, one way is you look at the top different SKUs that are selling and start reading the reviews, right? Why did people like this product? Why did people not like this product? So whatever it is that you're making, whatever it is that you're buying from China, you can create, like a lot of times, using an example, it could be something like you want to create your own swimming goggles. So you find the best-selling goggles on Amazon and you look at the reviews. So you look at the 1,000 reasons why people liked it. And when you're talking to your manufacturer, you're looking for something, you make sure that the product that you're sourcing already has that. Now you look at the bad reviews, and the bad reviews may say that the nose piece is too tight. So when you're ordering yours, when you're trying to find yours, you make sure that the nose piece is not too tight, right? So you have a better product. And a lot of times it's easier to create a better product if it's something that you are, that you know about, that is something that you're excited about, because you know that, hey, this is the problem in the product. The challenges with private label is that in terms of reselling, people are already looking for those products. So with private label, you have to, because they're looking for Nike shoes, they're looking for Ralph Lauren polo. The challenge with private label is you have to spend some money in advertising to draw people over to the private label. The third is wholesaling to Amazon. I wouldn't suggest that if you're starting out, but I would. But what that is you can go to Amazon Vendor Central, and you can get an account. You can register for an account, and you can try put your offers on there. I would recommend that, depending on how much experience you have, depending on how much experience you have in wholesale and importing, that you do that last, if you do it at all. I mean, reselling is the easiest. Private label is probably the second, and the wholesale is the hardest. Okay, here we go. So how do I get involved, or should I? So I wish when I would have started out being an entrepreneur, I wish I would have worked with an entrepreneur, had a mentor as an entrepreneur, because I thought that, when I was going to school, I wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor. And I worked with my dad, and I met a guy there that was an entrepreneur. And, he had a finance company, and he was making, he was doing really well. And, it seemed like he had time to do, travel, do other things. And it seemed like, he was making a lot of money. So I thought, oh, okay, if I become a businessman, once I'm, I'll make a lot of money, and I'll have time, to invest with my family, and I will, have a lot of time to do a lot of other things that I want. Because I didn't have experience, I didn't realize how much hard work it is, right? So first thing, before being an entrepreneur, and I'm not trying to scare everybody away, I mean, I've done this for 15 years and it's my passion, but it's something that you should know, that, it may take time to get results. You may fail a lot. And I remember when I was graduating college, a lot of people, or, my parents' friends or other people, they said, oh my God, you send shoes on eBay? That's like you're, Al Bundy, on the internet. Like it's like, I can't believe it. You're driving around and, buying shoes and selling them. And the thing is, in my business career, I've failed many times. I've actually lost a lot of money as well, right? So business is not just, it's not a rosy, field where all you're going to do is make money. every single time. In fact, there was a podcast that I was listening to where they had millionaires and billionaires that had started multiple businesses. The average time that these guys had failed or started different ideas before they got it right and hit it big was 9 times. It was 9 times. So if you want to go into business, you have to be optimistic, but also you have to be ready for failure, because inevitably you're going to fail sometime. But the key is to fail fast and to keep on changing as you fail, right? But as Zaki said, you have to be careful, because you can't have a shiny object syndrome. Just because you try something and your first time you list it, it doesn't sell or doesn't make money, you need to you stick with your idea, but find the reasons why it's not working, right? And a very important thing is to find the product market fit. So to find a product that fits with a market, right? So if you have a market that is, that is like, hey, I want to sell to, 50-year-old Pakistani males, right? You know that market really well. Think of a product that fits with them at a price that they're gonna buy, right? So in this slide, how do I get involved? Should I? Part of that was, okay, do you have how are you with failure? How are you with losing it all? How are you when you have zero money in the bank, right? The other thing is, as an entrepreneur, you have to be self-motivated. I can't stress that enough. Nobody's going to be mad at you if you if you don't get to your office at 9 in the morning. I mean, I'm working from home. I make sure I'm down here by 9, and I make sure for me, I dress up like I'm going outside, right? Just so I can keep that, feeling at home. But it's really important that you have to make it so that nobody, as an entrepreneur, nobody should need to motivate you. If things are not going good, your dad, your mom, your cousin, your friend shouldn't have to motivate you. That should be your first thing, is how am I going to get it better? Secondly, do you have enough capital for your strategy? Okay, how much money do you have to invest in the business? Now, that doesn't mean even if you have $100 or $50 or $500 that you can't get into business. No, that just means that you have to see how much money I have. Then I can pick the business that's better for me, right? So like we're talking about, okay, if you have lesser money, then maybe wholesaling to Amazon is not right for you, because they require you to have a certain amount of money, right? Maybe if you're creating a private label, you have to pick a product which doesn't have a high minimum order quantity, right? That you don't have to order a lot of products from. If you're reselling, you also need to look at your budget, right? You talked about Bose headphones, right? Maybe you don't want to get into $800 Bose headphones, right? Then if you don't have money, there's a lot of different ways to raise capital. But the best way to raise capital is do something small, prove out your idea, have the numbers, and then there's different places to get capital. That in itself is its own, talk, and I can guide people in the right direction if that's what they're looking for. Lastly, if you're creating an Amazon, if you want to create a brand, I'm not talking about reselling. If you want to create your own brand, I really suggest that it's not only on Amazon. Why? Because Amazon, you don't own your customers on Amazon, right? So on Amazon, you don't get people's email addresses, you don't get their lists, you don't get their phone numbers. Amazon is the brand that interacts with them, right? So if you have, and I have horror stories from Amazon where my Amazon account has been suspended. I've lost, several $100,000 of dollars when my account was selling millions in a month. And also, I've had issues with my own private label brands where we've had issues with patents and trademarks, right? So if you create your own private label, right, you have to make sure that it's not an exact copy of another product, right? And it's unique. So each of these things has their downfall. But the other part of it is the good thing, right? Of should I get involved, right? We're talking on a Muslim in an Islamic platform. I mean, doing business was the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, right? And I've heard that I've experienced that when business can be done right, there's no potential. You don't have a ceiling, right? So if you have a job, if you're working for somebody else, you have to go at a certain pace, right? If you're working for yourself, the sky's the limit. If things go well, you can employ many people, you can help a lot of people, right? Another motivation for us as Muslims to make money is to make the world a better place. So money can be a tool to help our parents, help our community, mentor other people, and make a bigger impact in the world. So I didn't want to discourage everybody by just saying, hey, these are the scary parts of entrepreneurism. There's a lot of great things, but just beware that hey, this is the path I'm treading. There's some thorns in it. So when those thorns come, you're not saying, hey, nobody told me that could happen, right? So you just be aware. Now, some general tips. Do something in entrepreneurship that is your passion, right? Even if you're reselling or selling something like I talked about, do something that you like to do. Why? Because this is something you're going to spend all your day on, all your day researching, all your day, finding, all your day, when we first started, I have picked, packed, shipped shoes. I've done customer service. One time I had an employee that I was wondering why we're getting negative feedback. And I'd keep on asking her, and she said, yeah, I'm answering the customer service emails every single day. And I mean, at that time I had about 20 people working for me, but I looked at my email inbox and there was 2,000 messages that had not been answered. So actually Umar was working with me at the time. I don't know if you remember. We actually spent the whole 3 days, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at his house, answering all the email messages ourselves. So this is a thing where if you don't like it, if it's your own business, your parents aren't going to say, oh, stay at home and do that. You're not going to have a boss. So do something that you're passionate about, because those challenges are going to come. If you like it, you're excited about it, you'll put your headphones on and get to work. The second tip that I have is be like a surfer. So as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things that you can't control, right? Trends are going to come and they're going to go, right? So many times you get very frustrated because you're saying, hey, I'm doing, everything. At the beginning of my career, I did sometimes better than I have done later on, because I got lucky, because that was the trend that I was working on at the time, got hot. So you can't get discouraged, because sometimes you might be doing everything that you can do. You might be trying harder than whatever you have done, but things have not, your wave hasn't come yet. So just like surfers do, they're training, they're waiting, they're paddling, they're just getting ready for the wave. So the entrepreneur, don't be focused on the results. Don't think that this is how much money I'm making this month or whatever. Think, what am I doing today? What did I move forward in my idea? Because that wave is going to come, right? The last thing that I want to touch on in terms of my general tips is that take care of your physical and mental health, right? So in mental health, right, a lot of people, quit or because being an entrepreneur can be depressing, because let's say you go to work, every 2 weeks you're going to get a check, right? As an entrepreneur, 2 weeks you might get no money, and actually you might get negative money because you didn't make any money and you have to pay bills, right? So if you're doing it alone, right, you may get really discouraged, right? So it's really important to be part of an entrepreneurial community. I'm part of several masterminds. Every year I go to Las Vegas as part of a big mastermind. So now, because a lot of people who are not in the industry may not be able to relate to you, right? If you tell somebody that has a good job that, hey, I didn't get paid in 2 weeks, they don't know anything about entrepreneurship. They say, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you wasting your time? But a lot of times when I've gotten discouraged, and I said, hey, I want to give up, I've talked to people that are a lot more successful than me, and they've told me, hey, I had that time, I had those years, I lost money, I had to borrow money. And then that makes me feel like, okay, this is not, I'm not alone. And it inspired me to go forward. Another way to keep your mental health good is read the biographies of the people that have done business. So you can see what goes on in their life and what other challenges that people had to go through. I mean, one good one is, there's two good ones that I'll recommend. One is the Virgin, who's the founder of Virgin again?
Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard Branson's biography. And what stuck out to me was one time there was a price when the price of time where the price of fuel went down high so much that he came back from vacation, and the guy from the bank was at his house. So they told him, hey, in 2 weeks, if you don't come up with like $300 or $400 million, we're going to take away your house, and we're going to take away a lot of different things. So he kicked him out of his house, and he went to all the distributors that he'd worked with and got them to pay up front or a deposit, right? So he could pay off the bank, right? And then there's another book called If I Stop Talking, You'll Know I'm Dead. That's from Jerry Weintraub. That's a really, really good book. I mean, it also talks about, it's one of my favorite books. So it talks about his rise and also the feelings that he had, right? So these kind of inspiration is really important, because when you have those down times, and I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I bet you all will, that you're able to say, oh, okay, look, this is how somebody rose from that, right? The last thing, which I'm saying to myself as well, is maintain a healthy routine and exercise. Why? I was talking to one of my friends, and I think it was a top school that did a study that said, what's the one thing that you could do to make yourself more productive in a day? And it wasn't that, oh, you work another hour, you focus, or this and that. It was you exercise. Why? Because that will give you more energy to work in the other hours, right? So that's something that in coronavirus, I've had a hard time with, is not being able to go to the gym, not exercising. So just trying to keep your energy up, because energy is something that, whether it's your people that are investors, your customers, if you're selling, they will notice, right? When they talk to you on the phone, even if when you're buying from people, right? If you talk to them on the phone and say, hey, my name is Avais, I want to buy your stuff, they may think, hey, this person is not very enthusiastic. How is he gonna? He can't even, it doesn't have energy to talk to me on the phone. How is he gonna sell stuff? So having energy, is really important. And I think another hard thing to maintain while you're an entrepreneur is a routine, right? Because nobody's gonna tell you that, hey, this is what time to get to work, time to get done, time to do this. So it's really important that you set yourself, hey, this is like my routine every single day, because that's something that you can control. So with that, I want to wrap up the presentation part of the event, and Zaki and I can be available. There's our contact details, and if you go in the how do I get involved slide, which was 2 slides ago, there's also a book called The Amazon Jungle Book. And my friend wrote that, Jason Boyce, and it's a really good, beginner's book to understand what's Amazon and how, how you can sell on it and some of the pitfalls. But we're here. If you ever need mentorship, guidance, or questions, we're here, for you. So I think with that, Omar, I think I want to turn it to questions.
Wow, that was awesome. Such an in-depth conversation. I really appreciate all the great tidbits and advice there. Let's jump into questions. We have about 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Let's see. I think, Abdi, do you have the first question?
I think Isa has the first question. Isa.
Yeah, so you both have mentioned advantages of e-commerce. Are there disadvantages or the struggles on maintaining an online business?
So I would say that they're different, right? So there's the struggles of a brick and mortar. There's struggles either way, right? So the disadvantages of the e-commerce business is that now people have very high expectations in the e-commerce business, right? It's very mature. If you want to, when Arish and I first started, that you could ship a product within a whole week and people would be happy if they got it in 2 weeks. Right now, if you're on e-commerce, if people are not, you're not getting a tracking number in 48 hours, people are like, oh, what kind of company are you dealing with, right? So if you want to be on e-commerce business today, you have to be very responsive with your customer service. You have to be very responsive with your logistics. And there is, it is a growing market. So there's a lot of people that are getting into the space. So you have to be very responsive and very diligent in those two things, especially. Zaki, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you 100%. The one biggest thing is it's in any business there's struggles, right? Regardless, you know what I mean? Nobody can say there's no struggles in business. But the biggest thing with e-commerce is trust, right? When it comes to brick and mortar, you're going to see the person face to face. You buy it, you're getting it right off the shelf, right? Whereas for e-commerce, they're going through, you're trusting legitimately a stranger with your info, your credit card info, your shipping address to deliver XYZ, right? So that's the biggest thing. When it comes to if your customers trust you, your consumer trusts you. And that's the same thing with Amazon has spoiled everybody, with 2-day shipping. So people have high expectations. So you just got to meet them.
Okay.
I have one follow-up question to that. Avais, you talked a little bit about Amazon. What are kind of the prerequisites or challenges to getting set up on Amazon?
So it's a really, really good question. So on Amazon, you need to have an entity, right? So go ahead and sign up, get an LLC or S corp, right? And you can go to Utah business.gov and you can set up and sign an entity. You need to get an EIN number. So EIN number. EIN number is like a social security number for a business so that they can give you taxes. They can report your taxes. The other thing, which is not necessary, but I will very much highly suggest it, is when Amazon is approving your account, they're going to look at for a website, right? So even if you don't plan to sell products on your website, create a website. And it should be very informative. Make sure none of the template things are going on there because sometimes those guys will go and look. And the thing with Amazon is if they deny you one time, sometimes you can get caught in this abyss of theirs and it's hard to find out. If you get denied for an account, don't go open one in your brother's name or your dad's name or whatever, because all those will get banned. You'll get in big trouble. So if you can't get it open, there's a problem, contact me or contact the Amazon help and work through it. The other thing that my friend just told me the other day, if they're asking you for any documents and you photocopy them, if they're in color, send it to, like if it's your license, send it to them in color. Don't send it to them in black and white. It can kind of confuse the system. So those are some, I think those are the simple things. If you have an LLC, my friend just told me the other day, if they're asking you for any documents and you, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think those are the main things before you have an Amazon account.
I think Abdi, you have, or somebody else has got a question.
I have a question. What are some ways to boost repeat purchase rates and increase consumer retention?
Zaki, take that one.
Yeah, so essentially one of the biggest things is just kind of user experience, right? If you can make the user just kind of feel some type of way that they won't feel elsewhere, right? And this is the one thing when it comes to kind of the differentiation between Amazon and kind of just owning your own, like hosting it through Shopify and handling the entire process, is Amazon, just like anybody can agree, they're going to just send in a brown box with the Amazon tape on the top, right? They're not known for an amazing experience. You're just going to get it extremely quickly. Their thing is efficiency, right? So one thing that if you have your own company on Shopify that will never be as efficient as Amazon. So how do you kind of beat that? You just beat the user experience. You got to make them excited to open the box, right? And there's a multitude of different companies that kind of play onto that. And if you can make the user experience amazing, and on top of that, have upsells, right? And one analogy that I like to use is if you're selling a baseball mitt, make sure you have a baseball on your site, right? And that's the biggest thing, that you want to have products that go hand in hand and you want to have kind of your whole funnel in a sequence. Does that make sense?
I had one follow-up question to Amina and Zaki, you could also answer this one. I know it's a big question, but maybe just a few quick tips. Like we talked about returning customers and bringing customers back, but what are some ways that we could attract or acquire new customers?
So yeah, so one of the biggest things is just traffic, right? You want to be marketing on the platforms that we use every day, right? And just thinking about how many users are on Instagram or on Facebook, and thinking about kind of the ecosystem that they've created, we want to tap into that and kind of just go about that and just be like, hey, they're consuming content anyway. Why aren't they consuming our content that just has a pitch at the end? You know what I mean? So that's one of the biggest things, and just putting it in front of the correct customers.
I gotta follow up with that one. So with Spotify, do you pay based on like the units you sell, or are you paying like a subscription where you pay like, a certain amount of money per month, or how does that work?
Now that's a good question. So you pay a monthly subscription, right? It's $29 to have a basic subscription. For majority of sellers, that's more than enough, right? From anything after that fact, it's just like more help from Shopify and their team in-house. But there's absolutely, outside of that, so there's probably two main things that you just want to keep in mind when you think about fees when it comes to Shopify, right? Is one, you have your monthly, $29 a month to get started, and they have a 2-week free trial so you don't waste 14 days, right? You can get started, you can get your store up, etc. And then on the other side is you want to think about payment processing fees if you're doing a large quantity, right? We got to realize is that the money's going through a middleman like Stripe, Shopify payments, etc., through these platforms where they're the secured kind of place where the customer gives them their card info, then the money goes to the next person, right? And they take their 2.5% plus XYZ cents, right? So those are kind of the two main factors there.
Thank you. I have a question for Avais. Avais, I know you mentioned, Amazon, and that's your area. That's your area. So I know, like in the past, eBay was like the champion of e-commerce, right? And so I want to know, like, why has eBay gone and why has Amazon surpassed eBay? Like, what made it different? I mean, is it like that? Like the 2-day shipping? Like, what made it go up? Because I know, like, also like PayPal purchased Amazon, but that didn't really. Purchased eBay, but that didn't really help out its stock or whatnot. So why did you see that difference, that change?
Yeah, really good questions, first of all. I'm impressed with the questions. So one of the things that eBay, that people really liked, so people looked at eBay as an auction site at the beginning, and more of like a community trading site, right? Like it's a personal person buying and selling, right? So Amazon, eBay started out with, okay, the 99-cent auction, and that's what it got known for, right? And so people, over time, they started to prefer convenience over just the price, right? Because let's say you're trying to buy something, now you're going out with your friends and it's dinner time, and you don't have time to wait and bid on the auction, right? Plus you don't have time to decide what, like you don't know what you're going to budget for because it could be cheap or expensive. So Amazon made a much more convenient product, right? Convenient item for them. Like Zaki mentioned, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel at any time. They took a marketplace and they made it better, right? The second thing that people don't really think about is the way that Amazon did their catalog was much easier for people to look at. I'll explain. If you go on eBay and put iPhone 10, you'll have 30 different sellers that are all selling, right? If you go on Amazon, in different listings. So you have to click every listing, look at the same product from a different listing, and look at the sellers which seller you want to buy from. On Amazon, all those 30 sellers on the iPhone listing will go under one set listing. So it's easier to search. Once you click in, Amazon will give that person the buy box, which is they'll put that person first in line who has the best reviews, best sales history, best customer service, right? So they made a much easier experience. And lastly, eBay, they've tried to get into the logistics, but they haven't done a good job like Amazon did, right? So if you ship to Amazon, everybody's getting the goods on time. And whereas eBay, some personal person maybe not be able to ship on time because of whatever happened in their personal life. So that's my summary on why Amazon won. The other thing is in e-commerce, they say that the winner gets most of the business, right? So I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember AOL, Yahoo. There was many places that came on, right? But once Google took over, or once they won, they can spend, because of what I talked about with lifetime value, they're making more money, so they can spend more money to be better and buy ads. So, you know, in the e-commerce space, those are some of the things that really matter.
Thank you.
I have a question for Zaki. So so you said that starting a clothing brand isn't a good idea, and I was wondering why, like to start off with.
So it depends on kind of what you define as kind of a good idea, right? One of the biggest things for me is that you have to define your goals. If your goal is to come into e-commerce and make as much money as fast as possible, then you have to look at saturation. How saturated is the market that you're going into, right? What does your competition look like, right? And one of the most competitive kind of niches and categories is clothing, creating custom clothing brands. It's probably it was the first idea I had. It was the first idea anybody that comes into e-commerce, they think about, hey, how do I create my own Nike, essentially? How do I create my own t-shirt that everybody would wear, right? And if you're going to do it, one of the biggest things that I would say is you have to think about differentiation, right? How are you better and how are you different? Those are the kind of the two biggest things. If you can't be better or you can't be different, because both of those things cost money, then I think a different category of e-commerce would be better off to start, then build up capital, and then be able to invest into your clothing brand, right? Because you got to start thinking about what kind of materials am I using? Where are they from? How does sizing work? All of these things, right? Those are kind of things you want to kind of grasp, and you have to like kind of just implement, right? One of the things that if you're going to do a clothing brand is just let the market speak for itself, right? Let the numbers, let the data speak. Go out there, launch it, but don't go invest into inventory. Go out and go a print on demand route and connect it to Printful and have your designs uploaded and kind of go about it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I like it.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, of course, bro.
We have time for one more question. And the question is, do I have to sell products to get into e-commerce? I think what they mean is like, do you have to sell physical products? And or like, can you be, monetize on an audience? I think that's kind of what they might be. How would you go about doing that? Maybe Zaki, you want to take that one, or Avais?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things is that the digital market space is probably one of the largest and fastest growing, just because of the profit margin, right? There's no having to handle shipping. There's no having to handle inventory. There's no having to handle any of that, right? So that's in a form of itself is just digital marketing and just selling digital products, right? If you can provide value in a digital sense and people are willing to pay for it, why not and go out there and do it, right? Monetize what you've spent so much time and energy and money even acquiring that knowledge, and people are willing to pay that, right? One of the biggest things, and I can just kind of attest, is the biggest advice I would say is everybody go out there, get a mentor, right? When I was a kid in Sunday school, I was like 12, 13, 14. I would overhear Avais and Umar talking about what they're doing, and I had no idea what was going on, right? And I I had no idea. I was a kid. I was 15, 16. And I started to progress. I remember coming, I don't remember if Avais remembers this, but I remember coming to him with an idea. I thought I had the next big thing. I was trying to sell like pet collars. They were like light up pet collars. And he motivated me. The one thing is that when you're looking for a mentor, which they both have been for me, is that you want to find somebody that just won't shut down the idea. I know for a fact in hindsight, when he saw it, he probably was like, yo, this is a garbage idea. But, he still smiled at me and said, yo, this is a good idea. Let me kind of help you in this direction, right? And that's the biggest thing here. If you're going to go out there in the community, find somebody that's doing what you're doing, or else, like on the other side, go out there and purchase a digital product that's out there. Other people have made and spent thousands, if not up to millions of dollars making mistakes. Why not go out there and pay a specific price and be able to learn from that and not make those same mistakes?
Yeah, I would also echo the same things that he said. If you have knowledge or experience or a skill of any type, you can market and sell that online. So it doesn't always have to be a physical product that you have to sell. So we are at time. I just want to thank our panelists once again, Avais and Zaki, for the awesome discussion. I'd like to thank our panelists for the great questions that they brought forward. Thank you to our board, our fellows and interns that helped put this event together. If you like what you heard and saw, please like this video and share it on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe to our newsletter. Stay in touch with us. We do have another event coming up, part of this series. It's going to be an introduction to YouTube for content creators, educators, and entrepreneurs. And that is January 19th at 5:30 p.m. So please tune in for that. Our next event, however, is part of our mental health and wellness series. And that is this Thursday. So please join us for that. It's about mental health and suicide awareness and prevention. So please join us for that important discussion as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.